Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Trial Talk Live with the Master Gardeners of Ottawa-Carleton. Nancy McDonald is an experienced and down-to-earth Master Gardener who loves to cook. She calls her presentation, Eat Your Blooms. It all started making a batch of lilac jelly, Nancy tells me. Once she had experienced that delightful flavor, she wondered about other possibilities for eating edible flowers. Today, Nancy is going to share some of her ideas with you. Also, before she begins, just a quick reminder to put any questions that you might have for Nancy in the chat box, and she'll try to answer your questions when her talk is finished. So now over to you, Nancy.
Well, thank you very much for joining us again today. And yes, it's a fairly recent gardening experience for me, experimenting and trying new recipes with edible flowers. And hopefully some of the ones I speak about today, you may want to try. So we'll start with a bit of the do's and don'ts. Obviously, you're not going to go out and buy a bouquet of flowers at the store and use them in your kitchen. You want to make sure that they're organic. And that's why it's wonderful to grow your own. Be mindful of allergies. And that really came home to me when I was going to take some herbs and maybe some calendula petals and violet petals and roll them into a cream cheese log of some sort, like a soft cheese, like a goat cheese, and serve it with crackers to some friends. And then I remembered that one of my friends had some allergies, floral allergies, and only to find out that calendula is in the same family of as chrysanthemums, and she was allergic to chrysanthemums. So always being mindful if you have some floral allergies to check it out. And then, do you even like the taste of the flower that you're going to try? So you take a small taste first. The picture that went out with this registration reminder was peony jelly. I don't like the taste of peony petals at all, but I do enjoy it in the jelly. So make sure you even like the taste. Wash well. You may find unwanted visitors inside. Never, never eat a flower that you do not know for certain is edible. And in the handout, which I'll tell you later how to get to that, I give you two really excellent resources for edible flowers. One is West Coast Seeds, and the other is the University of Minnesota. So you want to positively identify the plant, Latin name and all. And an example I would give of that is daylilies are edible, and daylilies are hemerocallis. True lilies, such as Asiatic lilies, would be toxic. But you know, many people even will shorten the name daylily to just lilies. So that's why it's important to know the plant, know the Latin name and all. So we eat with our eyes, but edible flowers are more than just a pretty face. And while you have to really scurry around to find the nutrition in edible flowers, you can find in petals vitamins like vitamin A and C, riboflavin, niacin, many minerals such as calcium, phosphorus, iron, and potassium. The phytochemicals, natural substances in plants, of course, are in our edible flowers, and pigments that make roses red and nasturtiums orange are rich in substances called polyphenols. So yes, it's lovely that it can be very attractive to our eyes, but isn't it wonderful that there's some nutrition? This was one day when I was making a salad, and all I really had in my garden to put in it was, well, I thought all I had to put in it was my greens. But then I went out and I picked some daylily petals. I put in some borage flowers, some calendula petals. And if you look sort of close here, that's a dill flower. So that's a really easy garden salad. And it's a good reminder too that any of your herbs in your garden that have gone to flower, use those flowers. You know, maybe you forgot to pinch off the basil and now you have basil flowers. Think how delicious that could be in a tomato salad. So I'm going to just go through about 5 different flowers that I have growing in my garden. I certainly can't do all of them today that I use, but these are ones that I think you may have or may want to have. So borage, I love this blue flower, and the pollinators love it as well. One thing about borage, once you plant it in your garden, you will always have it because it does self-seed. Having said that, it's not difficult to pull out those seedlings. And what I do if I've got too many seedlings is I just pot some of them up, and then I can put them on my deck and I can watch the pollinators come and enjoy the flowers. It's got a mild cucumber flavor to this flower. So culinary uses of borage, well, delicious in salads, as you see I used. I haven't done this, but the leaves are edible. And that's what's nice about going to those websites that I mentioned to you, because with edible flowers, plants, it may be the petals, the flowers themselves that are edible. It might be the leaves, it might be the stems. Honest to goodness, even some of them, the roots are edible. I haven't dug up any to eat. So you can use borage leaves and steam it. Beautiful as a garnish. Just think if you had a lovely fruit salad in the summer and just sprinkled some of those borage flowers over, just so pretty. And then just floating in sparkling water, lemonade, or teas. So very nice plant. Calendula has the reputation of being having this saffron-like flavor, this mild saffron-like flavor, and certainly at pennies for the cost when you think of saffron. And it'll be, your taste buds will certainly dictate whether it's a spicy or bitter or tangy or peppery flavor. I quite enjoy the petals in a salad. I like a little bit of a peppery taste in my mouth, and you will get that yellow tint to your food. What's nice about calendula too is the more you pick the flowers, the more that come. So it's really great in that way. It'll just bloom for you all summer. If you've planted it in the ground, you will probably have some that will self-seed the next year for you. I grow a lot of mine in pots, and I just collect the seeds for the next year. I dry calendula, so no fancy drying equipment in my house. I just use a cotton tea towel, take the heads of the flowers, turn them over every couple of days till they get dry. And when they feel almost straw-like, the petals, then I just crumble them off into a mason jar and use them in the winter. Because what's nice about calendula is you can use it fresh or dried. You can use it in the same way, whether it's fresh or dried. You can use it in soups, in rice dishes, muffins, biscuits, great with egg dishes. So omelets, frittatas, quiches, all wonderful. And I wished I had taken a picture of this soup, which was almost everything in the kitchen type of soup in the winter. Before I added my calendula to it, it didn't have this yellow tone for sure. I have to say nasturtiums are amazing edibles in so many different ways. I'm going to write an article for Trowel Talk later this year, and I think I'm going to call it Nasturtiums, the Incredible Edible, because I've just found I could do so many things with it. The petals and leaves are edible. It's got that peppery, spicy flavor. Some people describe it as a cross between a watercress and a radish. I use it in salads and soups and many other things, but also just if you're just taking a flatbread or pizza out of the oven, you can top it with some of the flowers as well. I made nasturtium jelly for the first time last year. I always make just small batches of different jellies. And I will be giving you in the handout a basic flower jelly recipe. Now, the things about these basic jellies, these flower jellies, is there is a heck of a lot of sugar in it for sure. I sort of tell myself, well, I don't have jellies every day, and when I do, it's only a small amount. And they make wonderful gifts too to give away. So my grandson, my 13-year-old grandson, loves this jelly, so I'll certainly make it again. One of the master gardeners, Edith Faulkner, had told me she had made pesto at one time with nasturtium, and I make all kinds of pestos with herbs. So I made it, and it was, the proportions were about 2/3 of leaves to about 1/3 of flower petals. Had a bit of an earthy flavor, I found, but if I find that with some of my stronger herbs when I'm using it, I sometimes brighten it up by just adding some either lemon juice or lime juice, just to give, to take away that maybe that strong flavor. I also do vinegar infusions with both nasturtiums and calendula. So in the bottle on the left, I have nasturtium flowers, I have rosemary, I have peppercorns, and it's in an apple cider vinegar. In the right, it's calendula flowers, lemon verbena, and a lemon peel in white wine vinegar. Now, I really enjoy both of these vinegar infusions. I took my pitcher outside, and then I just took the bottles and put them in a dark cupboard. I would shake it every couple of days, and then after 3 or 4 weeks, just strain them. I use these as basis for salad dressings and for marinades. And, you always know when you enjoy it, you make the same infusion recipe over and over again because you really like it. The other thing I did this year for the first time with nasturtiums, when I don't clean up the garden as much in the fall as I used to, but when I went out and was cleaning out some of my annuals and nasturtium pots, I collected I harvested all the leaves from my nasturtiums because they're edible, and I washed them and froze them, dried them and froze them, and used them in soups in the winter. So that's what I mean. You can just do so many things with nasturtiums. Lilac, well, it did start with lilac, and I must say, I enjoy being in my kitchen, but I do not want to spend hours in my kitchen. I'm not a gourmet cook, and I like getting as much bang for my buck as I can. So when I made these jellies, I made lilac and peony and rose, and I've made nasturtium and so forth. When I make them, what I found is I can just use them so much during the year. An easy thing for me when we could go to potlucks was just to take a baguette, I have some soft cheese, put some jars of my little jellies on the platter, and people want to try it. And it was easy for me. So something that doesn't take a lot of time and has, as I say, a good bang for the buck as to what I can do with it. So with lilacs, the purple ones will give you the most vibrant color. I just have a common lilac. You can see the flowers just down here. My friend was growing the Sensation, the one with the darker purple with the white, and I mixed some of the two of them together. You can make jellies, syrups, even wine, in sugars, in meringues, mixed with cream cheese or yogurt. You can use them in a dip or a spread. And my goodness, we're soon going to have lilac flowers, so I hope you might check out some recipes. So when you're making the floral tea, you pick off your blossoms, you measure the quantity, of course, and you're going to pour boiling water over it to make a tea, really, and let that stand for about 24 hours. Then it's straining, and really then all you need is your large amounts of sugar, as I said, your pectin, and either lime or lemon juice. So that's how simple it is. when my lilac jelly is made, it has this pretty rose tone. It's the only one of my jellies that actually loses color. It turns to sort of a paler yellow. And when you Google images for lilac jelly, it is usually a yellow color. All my other jellies keep the color that they had when I made them. And this is just having a little tea break, right? So there's my lilac jelly and my sweet Sicily biscuits. And I was telling before we started this that actually my sweet Sicily is up, and I made these biscuits yesterday. I don't feel as guilty when I'm putting jelly on sweet Sicily biscuits, because sweet Sicily, which is really the sugar herb they call it, you really greatly reduce the amount of sugar in any of your baking or if you're stewing rhubarb. So it's a useful herb to have in the garden. So lavender, the English lavender do well in our gardens here. I've just have cut back my plants a bit in the spring, and I can see some new green coming. If you're going to dry them in a warm, airy location, and you can use it in the winter, you can also freeze lavender. So either drying or freezing. Some suggestions are lavender infused in milk. I haven't done. I've had lavender ice cream once, but I've never made it. One of the simplest things you can do with lavender is if you are serving chocolate ice cream, chocolate cake, something like that, just to sprinkle a few of the flowers over it as a presentation. You can preserve it in sugar and honeys, and that's one thing I've told myself I'm going to try this year is lavender honey. I've made rosemary honey, so the process seems much the same. I was giving a talk for the Friends of the Farm lectures, I guess a couple of years ago, and you always have a break in the middle, and I thought, well, I should take a sample of something from my that I made for people. So I started with the cookies on the left, which was a lavender shortbread. Makes a delicious shortbread, but in the recipe, as well as the lavender, there also was minced mint, and there was orange zest. So it was a lovely flavored cookie, and it's certainly one I will make again, but I didn't get much of the lavender flavor. And then I just Googled for recipes, and Dame Mary Berry from the Great British Baking Show lavender biscuits recipe came up. And what I learned from reading her recipe, that if you're cooking with, or baking, excuse me, with herbs, it's good to cream the herbs, in this case, the lavender leaves and flowers, with the butter, and then the oil is sort of imparted into that butter, and you get a bit more of the flavor. I wouldn't win any awards on how it looked, but I got pretty good feedback on how they tasted. Another time I was giving a talk at the home show, someone said to me, well, have you ever made a lavender tea cake? And she operates a bed and breakfast, and she was kind enough to share her recipe. It was just minced lavender leaves in the cake. Very dense cake, almost like a pound cake, very mild lavender flavor, quite nice. And I just decorated with flowers. And that's the thing with lavender, you only want it in small amounts. You can certainly use lavender for savory dishes as well. That's why I want to make some honey, because I found some recipes for glazing chicken with lavender honey. So if you enjoy edible flowers, you can start to call yourself a floraphagia person. And so you can add that to your title. So if you would like the handout, you can scroll back to the first item in the chat, click on the file to open it, and save it to your computer if you want to keep it. So on that, I do have a few other flowers that I've used. And also I give you the instructions if you want to sugar some flowers like violet or rose petals for using on cupcakes or cake decorating, fun thing to do. And the recipe for basic flower jelly. If you're watching on YouTube and you want a copy of this handout, send a request to our mgoc.troweltalklive, TTL, @gmail.com. And that email address is always on your registration reminder. And if any of you want any of my recipes or links to the recipes, certainly I'll watch that email to see if any, and if you do, and I'll answer. And now questions. Hanka, do we have any questions?
Thank you very much, Nancy, for the great talk and the lovely pictures and suggestions for recipes. Right now, I don't see any questions. You're welcome to write in the chat your questions. Maybe I'll start with a question. I'm wondering if you ever made jelly with rose petals and if you have a favorite rose for that.
I actually got rose petals from Judith Cox because she has some wonderful fragrant roses. I don't know if it was the Rosa Monday. Maybe Judith can type in the chat. And I did go to her house and get these petals, she told me, and did that. So it probably was the most floral of my jellies, the most floral tasting of my jellies. They all have a slightly like a distinctive flavor, that's for sure.
Oh, thank you. There is a question here from Joanna. She's wondering about the documents. She can't access the or download the document. I'm just wondering if everyone has the same problem.
Well, the thing is, if they want it, I certainly can. They can send that email to Trowel Talk Live, unless Kelly wants to put it there again, that we've had more people join.
Yeah, maybe I can't tell if anyone has the same problem, but there is a question from Karen. She's asking if you can start your nasturtiums indoors ahead of time.
I don't usually, just because I run out of room. You can, they're not they don't really enjoy being transplanted. Having said that, I've certainly moved them after the seedlings have got started, but I just find I can direct seed them. And I often will do that even, I'll watch the temperatures, but I'll often do that even as early as the middle of May for some of those flowers. And then if I need to cover them, because I'm doing a lot of mine in pots, I can just put them inside. So I do get a little bit of a head start by starting them earlier than the long weekend.
Okay, thank you.
There is another question from Julianne. What is your favorite flower to use, Nancy?
Well, I think I had said nasturtiums. I think too, it was one of the first flowers that my grandkids could actually, you know, the seeds are a good size if you've planted nasturtium seeds. So when their fingers were small, they could handle those seeds and plant them. Just because I can do so many things with them. My favorite jelly is lilac, though, myself. That's the jelly that I enjoy the most.
Okay, thank you. There is some more questions, very interesting ones. Do you make capers with your nasturtium seeds? That's Helen is asking this. And I'll combine it with the next question from Candace. Have you pickled your nasturtium seeds, which is a very similar concept?
So I was talking to Julianne and Pinka and Kelly before we started, and I said, I'm definitely going to pickle some this year. A small jar. I've got lots of nasturtium seeds to plant, so I don't mind sacrificing a few of the seeds to these capers. I've been reading about it, and you certainly pickle them when they're still green. I know that. So I'm planning on doing it because I thought I'd like to add it when I do that Trowel Talk article, which is coming up in the fall. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. And there is another question here. Do you have to dry the flowers for making the tea, or you can use them fresh? That's Odette is asking this question.
When I'm making tea, you mean?
Yes.
Or
yes, the teas.
Oh, no. I think she means the lilac tea when I was making my jelly. I think I call it lilac tea, but it because they do, I think in the instruction, you make a bit of a tea, but no, they're not dried. I picked them off fresh. And I thought it was going to take me a long time, and it certainly didn't. And then just wash them in a strainer and just dry them and put them in the jar with the boiling water.
Okay, thank you. And there is an interesting, it's not a question, it's rather a comment from Christina. She said, I've pickled nasturtium pods. They worked out great. Just to be sure to soak them well first to remove any earwigs.
Okay, I'll take her advice.
And I think that is the end of the questions.
Okay.
Okay, well, I'm going to jump in here then, if I could. I don't know if you have anything further to add, Nancy. I kind of interrupted, but I did want to thank you so much for such an inspiring talk. What fun, gorgeous photos. And yeah, some of us like our bouquets of flowers, and some of us like to eat them, and some of us like to do both. But you've taught me so many options for what to do with these lovely flowers. Anything else to add, Nancy?
No, I'm just wondering if anybody was able to get the handout in the chat.
Yeah, I think I'm getting some head nods, so I think some people are getting them.
Yes.
So
comments.
Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you again, Nancy. That was great, and thanks, Pinka, for helping out. And we hope that you'll tune in next week when we'll be talking about perennial edibles. See you next week. Bye.